principal brings forward a nomination, and then the Go team can go through the filling the vacancy process. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. I
Good.
see an instructional staff member on my Go team ballot. That's why I wasn't sure if there was an opening.
Households, parents and guardians, households vote for parents and guardians. Staff vote for staff.
Okay, that's why I did. Okay.
Yeah. So you're voting for your constituency votes for you.
I understand. I got it. Geez, I've been through this so many times and I'd forgotten. Okay, thank you, Diane.
So you'll still be on next year?
Yes, my term expires next year or at the end of next year, and Eric's term expires the end of next year.
Okay. We are now streaming live, so I'll go ahead and share the presentation and let you take over.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the April Go Team meeting. This is our last Go Team meeting of the year. We'll follow the agenda that has been emailed to the Go Team members and was posted on the website, the Go Team page on the Midtown High School website. I'd like to remind everyone that only members of the Go Team may participate in discussion. Any members of the public are here to observe, but may provide public comment during one of our 2 public comment periods. So this meeting of the Go Team is called to order at 4:06, and we will start with roll call. Eric, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Principal Bachman.
Here.
Jennifer Keenan.
Here.
Eric Goldberg. Here. Audrey Reese.
Here.
Miss Uzoka.
Here.
Mr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. Montgomery or Miss Montgomery. Okay. Tamara Jones. Neelam Parsons. And I don't have her first name, Rivera.
Here.
Thank you.
And me,
Who's me?
Lisa Boyd.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Lisa. And Eden, I don't have her first name.
Aiden Sharp.
Eden Sharp. Is Eden here? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we have enough for a quorum, so we'll go on to our action items. The first action item is to approve the agenda. Again, it was sent via email and posted on the Go Team website. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion. Okay.
That's Ms. Boyd. Do we have a second?
Could I
Jennifer,
just wanted can I ask about the about a time limit? Can we on the agenda items? I'm just there's a lot of meaty stuff that's listed, and I want to make sure we get to all of it. Is it possible to put some time parameters on the chunks of just so we get to everything?
Yeah, so just really quickly, Dr. Bachman, usually what happens is that you have a motion, a second, and then discussion. So you can bring up that information during this discussion. So let's get the motion on the table, and then there's discussion, and you can offer those that suggestion, and the team can discuss it, and then there can be a vote on what the team decides. Does that help?
I thought it was seconded.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
I second it. Jennifer seconds the motion.
Okay, so now the team would have discussion. Now, Dr. Bachman, bring forward your.
Suggesting that we have a time limit on the discussion items, and even because I want to make sure we get to Dr. Namias's presentation, and so I'm just concerned about getting through everything in a good timely manner. That's all.
Yeah, so Dr. Bachman, Dr. Namias is going to go first. I noted in the email that we're going to move her to the top of the agenda so that she won't have to stay for the entire meeting. Of course, she's welcome to, but yeah, so she's actually going to go before we do the discussion items.
Can we discuss a little bit more about just some time limit for the discussion items?
You want to set it at 10 minutes per discussion item? Or 5?
Yeah, 15 minutes. I mean, that's just the idea of 15 minutes each. For sure,
Okay.
because if there are 4 items, that could be an hour.
That works for me. 10 minutes, 10 minutes a section. I mean, this,
Okay, so suggestion of 10 and 15 for those 4 discussion items.
Well, I think there are, how many discussion items are there? I guess you need me to set a clock and then you want me to say time.
So if the team decides to set a time limit on each discussion item or on specific discussion items, it would fall to the vice chair to be the timekeeper. Because it's hard to be the secretary or keep time, and it's hard to be the chair and lead it and keep time. So we asked the vice chair to do that. And so the team could say that we want to limit agenda items. You know, you can say, and I think the ones that you're talking about are D, E, F, and G. We want to limit time for discussion on agenda items D through G at no more than 10 minutes each, or whatever the team decides. And then that would be an amended agenda and you vote on it. And if the majority agree, then that's set. If the majority don't agree, then you don't have a time frame. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Eric. I would like to suggest no more than 15 minutes per item. I'm guessing some of the items won't take 15 minutes. But I'd hate to see some of the items be cut off before they've been fleshed out.
Well, I don't know. This seems to be taking more time than just moving forward. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with a 15-minute time limit. And yeah, if Audria, if you could do that. So I guess we need a motion, Diane. We need a new motion on that. On the time.
First off, I apologize. I was off last week, so I'm seeing this, and as I'm looking at this, if I can offer a little bit of guidance, if that's okay. I personally would recommend removing item B because it's not really you're going to be doing that with the needs assessment. So there isn't something separate that you're going to discuss with item B. It's kind of that's what the whole purpose of A and C are, is kind of that preparation planning. So you could remove B. In terms of D and E, those are probably the ones that really need to have the time limit. F is because F might need to be moved to the principal's report because I believe, Dr. Bachman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that some of those requests have already gone in. Is that correct? Or do I not have up-to-date information on the request for the additional funds?
Yes, we.
That's been submitted?
Right, we made our application, yes.
Okay, so I would recommend moving F to the principal's report so Dr. Bachman can report out on it. And on G, it's my understanding right now that the district is without an athletic director. And so with the reorganization, I don't know what the goal of G is, but there's nobody in the district office that, like, if you guys come up with this great plan or something, right now there's no path to like submit it to anybody. So you may want to either remove G or really limit the time on that. So based off of what I said, again, our recommendation would be like remove B, limit the time on D and E, move F to the principal's report, and consider removing G completely, just because of, but again, I don't know what the, what the goal of G was.
Yeah, I don't think we should remove G. I know Tamara has, I think if she joins the call.
She's on. She joined,
yeah.
Eric.
Okay, yeah. So I think there is some things to discuss that aren't all related to the APS district level that are relevant to just Midtown. So I think we should keep G.
Okay, then it would be recommending to set the time limit for D, E, and G, because A and C are what we want y'all to do. So D, E, and G would be where you limit the time. But it is your all's agenda, so the team needs to take a vote on it. If you don't like the recommendation, that's fine. It's your agenda. You all can vote on what you want.
Okay, so let me make a motion that try and encapsulates all of that. So we're still in the section of the agenda where we're approving the agenda. So our motion is to remove item B and move item F to the principal's report and limit the discussion on D, E, and G to 15 minutes.
A second.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Lisa, a second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries on unanimous voice vote. So we're set on our revised agenda.
Okay, and can everyone see my screen? Is it sharing properly?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, the next item is our first public comment period. Are there any, Ms. Capelli, can you see, are there any members who signed up to make a public comment during the first 10-minute period?
All right, hold on and I will check. Nope, we don't have anyone in the chat on YouTube. So at this time, there's no public comment.
Okay, great. So we will move on to the approval of the minutes. The minutes were previously circulated. Are there any corrections or yeah, are there any corrections that anyone would like to submit? Okay, I don't see any show of hands, so we'll move on. I make a motion to approve the minutes from our March meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is that Eric?
Yes.
It's hard on Zoom. You need to say your name. Okay, so second is Eric. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes from our previous meeting have been approved. The next item on the agenda is discussion items. However, as I indicated at the start of the meeting, before we go to discussion items, as a courtesy, we're going to have Dr. Namias provide her information item on the 9th grade onboarding program. So that's going to happen now, and then we will go back to discussion items.
Thank you, Ms. Capelli. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl Namias. I'm Student Support Program Specialist here at Midtown. And I understand that you all have had some discussion about things like executive functioning skills and sort of explicitly helping students to develop those skills. And that happens to coincide with a big area of emphasis that we have going for next year that has come out of my work with the people on the Midtown Foundation. And so, so I sit on the foundation board as a faculty member, but I'm also a parent here. And I'm also, you know, a student support specialist. So I have 2 slides. I'm going to go probably 5 minutes, and then I'm open to any questions that people might have. And there's a lot more information that can be had, but I just want to give you guys an overview. So the Midtown Foundation has a mission to support the school in various areas. And one of those areas is to support students in academic achievement. And we are doing very well in our fundraising. We have a wealth of funds that come from an outside foundation, and we're about to get a little more money than we're used to having. And so we all felt that it was very important to try and do some things that are pretty transformational. And instead of funding like little tiny projects here and there, really try to do something that would kind of move the needle for the most kids. So we funded things like Saturday school, community days, SAT prep for all the juniors. So just things that every student can benefit from, and sort of continuing in that vein. So we wanted to work to identify, like, you know, I call it a problem, let's call it a challenge here at Midtown. And what we know, and this comes from looking at a lot of data, from working here every day, from talking to teachers, is that post-COVID, and even pre-COVID, there are a lot of students here who lack the executive functioning skills to flourish in school and in life. And when I say executive functioning skills, I mean like the ability to plan ahead, the ability to organize themselves, the ability to study and to learn, the ability to generate original ideas, and to sort of motivate themselves to work. So these are some things that we've really seen post-COVID take a dip. But even before that, sort of across the board, students struggled with those things. The other thing that we see is that we have sort of a bimodal distribution here at Midtown of resources. So we have a lot of students who have a lot outside of school, resources in terms of support, money, opportunities, you name it. And then we have a good chunk of students who don't have access to those same resources. So the majority of what they're getting in terms of support to grow in these areas of executive functioning are happening here at school. So there's some pretty major gaps that exist between those 2 groups of students. But sort of at every level, whether you've got a kid taking 13 AP classes or a kid who's just struggling to graduate, we have students who are working harder and not smarter. They may be achieving on paper, but at what cost? They're not being efficient with their time. They're not being smart about the way they do things. They're sort of, you know, squeezing every last bit of gumption that they have out of themselves. You know, they have lots of supports and tutors and parents helping them in many cases. But if we could teach them to do these things better, we feel like all students, no matter kind of where they fall on that spectrum, would do better here. We also have some systemic issues that are exacerbating the issues that students are having. So we really wanted to take the perspective of an individual student at Midtown. What are they experiencing here that maybe makes it harder for them to master these skills and to really get a grip on what they're trying to achieve here at school? And systemic issues are things like inconsistencies. Every kid has 8 classes until they get to be upperclassmen, and then they might do early release or whatever. But when you think about 8 classes over every 2 days and a 14-year-old in 9th grade coming into high school for the first time, and every classroom has its own rules, its own norms, its own way of organizing the notebook, its own way of communicating the assignments, pretty soon kids are sort of in an overwhelm of information. And so this isn't that individual teachers aren't doing a good job of setting all these things up for students, but if you're that single student and you've got 8 different adults kind of trying to create this reality for you, it can quickly become overwhelming. So sort of those inconsistencies across classrooms, a lack of curricular coherence, in that you might be taking like American government, but within 2 different classes that might look pretty different. Things like just the sheer number of classes that students are taking. So these are some things that are, kind of adding up to students really struggling. And at the bottom of that, and this might sound a little bit, I don't know, like, I don't want to say hokey, but, saying, but a lack of hope. But I'm really letting hope stand in for a big body of psychological research that we have that really tells us what motivates human beings, not just teens. And that once students lose that feeling of agency, like they can actually do better, that whatever you want to call that, call it hope, call it self-efficacy, that it's very hard to sort of get kids going again. So with all that in mind, what we thought was that if we can study this problem here at Midtown and create some programming for our incoming 9th graders and really start to address what's going on with kids as they enter Midtown, that was sort of the best approach, so that if we can really get them on solid footing as 9th graders, as they matriculate through the years, they're going to have a much better experience. So Ms. Capelli, if you want to come to the next slide. So here's our solution. What we decided was to frame our whole inquiry about how we can help our 9th graders and our students at large, but especially our 9th graders, based on a report done by TNTP, which used to be the National Teacher Project, and now they just go by TNTP. They published a report that was very well researched about high schools that they call the opportunity makers. These are high schools that kids go to where kids who maybe don't have as many outside resources have done incredibly well. And they've been able to move the needle for those kids. And they studied those schools over a number of years and said, what is it that they're doing that really contributes to being able to move kids to the next level in their own self-actualization as students and as people. And the 3 things that they identified were consistency, coherence, and belonging. And so what we did was we decided to research the presence of those things in our 9th grade experience that our students are currently having. So we hired a group called Empower Academic Coaching for phase 1. And this phase was already funded by the foundation. It's already complete. And I'm going to tell you what we found. We had 2 coaches from Empower Academic Coaching, former teachers, very talented teachers. They spend all of their time coaching individual kids and groups of kids in the very skills that we are hoping to teach our own students. We embedded them in 2 key freshman classes, biology and American government. We embedded them for 30 instructional days straight. We gave them informants in each class that the teachers chose. So they were in one section of American government and another section of American government with 2 different teachers, and then 2 different sections of biology. And in each class, the teachers identified 2 kids that they felt like really struggled in their class. And these coaches went in and shadowed those kids for the entire class period for 30 days. And they looked at their Schoology, and they looked at their grades, and they looked at the assignments, and they looked at the tests that the kids had to take, and they started experimenting, teaching the kids study strategies. So when I say they were embedded, they were truly in there with the kids, kind of trying to understand the perspective and like what was breaking down for these individual kids. They collected a copious amount of data, and we came up with sort of which pieces of data they would collect, and we met with them frequently to sort of adjust on those things. And we asked them for a report with recommendations about next year, if we're going to focus in 9th grade on certain things, what is going to give us the most bang for our buck for what you saw with students. And these are the things that they came up with. They came up with, and this is going to be phase 2. We're going to do some programming next year with a team of 9th grade teachers, ELA, biology, and social studies. Social studies will include American government and AP Human Geography, because those are the 2 social studies that all 9th graders take. Biology is the science that all ninth graders take, and ELA is the one subject that all ninth graders take. Once you get into math and world language, it's all over the place. Kids are at different levels, they're taking different classes. There's no sort of cohesive ninth grade experience in math and world language. So that's why we chose to focus on those 3 areas. So in those 3 areas, we are going to work on coherent assessments, meaning like common assessments that are prepared at the beginning of a unit, and that really kids are sort of constantly working toward mastery of those assessments. And we're going to teach kids, and that's going to be really important, because the next thing we're going to focus on is high quality retrieval practice, because kids do not know how to study. And that is at every level. They are not following best practices in how to study. They're not being efficient. They're not being effective. And so once we have coherent assessments in place for all of those subjects, then we can really work with the teachers on teaching kids explicitly in class how to study. We're also going to teach comprehensive note-taking, like actual strategies for note-taking that kids will use in all those classes, things like that. We're going to teach the kids planning and organization. We're going to have a standard planner that they use to pull all of their assignments, and they're going to have time in class in each of those classes to stop and sort of look at their calendar, write things down, really practice putting it all in one place. And then we're going to have a number of things around engagement and belonging that are going to help the kids get to know each other, get to know their teachers, do more hands-on. We're going to pull back on the Chromebooks and insert more paper. And I know that sounds very simplistic, but when I say more paper, I mean kids processing things by hands, kids having to actually generate ideas without cutting and pasting, and without teachers having to look for academic dishonesty. We took away the phones, and now we have to take away a little more of this screen time that kids are getting through Chromebooks. And, you know, so a lot of the things that we're going to be doing in these classes is going to rely on this team of teachers to implement them cohesively. The Empower team is planning these things. So they're pulling together all the research-based strategies, the lessons, the materials for the teachers. They're going to facilitate day-long planning sessions for the teachers 6 times across the school year. So the foundation is funding substitutes. We're funding paper. You know, we're in a budget crisis. We're funding books for the kids that teachers decide that they want all the students to read. We're funding, so anything that's like comprehensively part of this 9th grade experience, the foundation, and I'm going to present my budget to them Wednesday night for approval. But pretty much they funded phase 1 and the study, and they have a 30-page report about everything we want to do. And now I come in with, and then here's how much each of those pieces are going to cost. So instead of just layering on one more thing for teachers to do, we're actually going to provide comprehensive time for teachers to plan and to plan together. And we're going to do it with the facilitation of this outside group who has been studying our school very closely for an extended period of time. And what we hope is that in the end, these kids are going to come away with actual transferable real life skills, and they're going to be on track coming out of 9th grade. They won't have already burnt out that little spark of hope that they enter school with, because we're going to keep it alive. We're going to keep fanning that flame so that they come out of 9th grade stronger than they came in. And that's, in a nutshell, what we're doing.
Dr. Bachman, can the foundation fund substitute teachers? I thought the foundation wasn't able to fund personnel.
No, they really can't, because it comes out of the general fund budget. So they really fund a substitute.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a wrinkle we're going to have to figure out.
Maybe, yeah, we can do some shift. The foundation could maybe fund something else, or we'll regroup around that. Yes.
Okay.
So, you know, this, I think right now this is for, you know, the overview of the research that's been done to date, and the preview of the program that's going to be kicked off in next August. So are there any questions for Dr. Namias on this project?
I have a comment. Hi, this is Audrey Reese. This reminds me of a class, like a seminar. I think my daughter took it in middle school. They covered study skills, goal setting, just different things like that. I can't remember the name of the class, but it just reminds me of that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Dr. Namias, but
So I thought you were actually going to say an AVID class, because that's an early high school class that a lot of schools that have AP have for students, that's similar. So probably whatever your daughter took was similar. What we've found and what a lot of research shows is that when students are actually taught to use these skills in the context of an actual class, as opposed to like, I'm in my study skills class, now I go to science and I'm going to try to apply what I learned. If you actually have the teachers teaching it to them as they're learning content, that it becomes more transferable, that it actually sticks a little better.
Okay. And so all the teachers, I guess will they get training on like study skills?
Yeah, so they are actually going to have these lessons are going to be planned for them to teach by the people who are experts in it. And then they'll have time during these long planning days to actually get really fluent with what we're going to be teaching the kids. And the other part of that that's important is that means that every student, every experience the kids are having with it is uniform. So if I'm being taught this in biology and my teacher's using it in American government and in ELA, and they're all three using it, that's how the student's going to learn it. The repetition, the consistency across classes. And so that's the vision for how we're going to roll it out.
Okay, great.
Hi, Eric Goldberg. I have a question. And Dr. Namias, thanks for taking the time to present to us. This is a fantastic program, and I think it's wonderful that the foundation is funding it. Would it be possible to make some of this curriculum available to 10th graders, or is it best fit for 9th?
So I absolutely think that our goal should be, as we pilot this in 9th grade, to make it something that we then port over to. So for example, one of the decisions that I hope that we'll be able to make next year is, if it's going well, we can say, hey, on one of these PL days where the district wants our teachers to just sort of disperse all over the district and do different disconnected PL, if teachers could stay here at Midtown, and then we could do that same PL with teachers in other grade levels. That way, as students matriculate through, and the kids who are currently in 10th grade and currently in 11th grade can start to get the benefit of some of this. So I absolutely think that that should be a goal, but for sure our immediate focus is sort of piloting it with 9th grade.
And if I could jump in here, I just wanted to say how grateful I am. You know, I love the methodological approach to this, like just being very diligent about asking what the kids actually need. One question I have, and Dr. Bachman will probably remember, me coming in and crying in our office when, Logan had that situation where he had the 8 different teachers, and one had a Weebly website, and one had a this, and one had a that, and one wrote the things on the board, and like, it was awful. And so it's gotten a lot better, but I really appreciate your approach. Quick question. Are there plans, have you talked to the middle school about doing something like this, or getting kids exposed to this kind of stuff in an earlier grade? Because I mean, we used to do that back in 6th grade. Like the teachers that would be part of their when they checked off their planners, their little agendas, and taught kids how to use it. I mean, that was a much different approach. It was not as much analysis as you did, but it, and I remember back in elementary school when we were arguing for, introducing kids to some of these sort of study skills and methods by 4th and 5th grade. So are there talks about this potentially?
Not yet, but I would love for us to, I mean, Miss Hollis obviously has a really strong relationship with the high school and has a real commitment. In fact, she was one of the people I think who kind of brought Schoology in an effort to kind of bring things all into one kind of place for kids and maybe that's some of what you felt has been better, that at least there's like 1 or 2 platforms as opposed to, the whole world. But absolutely, like we'd love to, and Howard has its own foundation too. So, they even have the ability, if they want to pick up on some of this that we're doing, to sort of get it moving there. Like when we started a Saturday school, they started a Saturday school. So I'm hoping that whatever we're doing we have not initiated any conversations yet, but for sure we'll share whatever we're doing.
Yeah, Dr. Namias, hi, I just want to ask about the ESOL students that they came new to the school, new to the system, new to everything in the United States. And I know that last year you have a class like that, and it really helps them a lot. Some of them, they don't even know how to use email.
Yeah.
So I think that it's also, you're going to be part of them, maybe with the ESOL teachers.
So I'm glad you asked about that, Nidia, because what I'm telling you all right now is like our tier 1 approach. This is our approach for every student in 9th grade. And tier 1 means it hits everybody. Then, as I spoke about earlier, we have groups of students here, including our ESOL students, including students who might be behind academically, or who might be transient, and moving from one school to the next, or come into school a month into the school year. So we have students who are really struggling just to kind of keep afloat. And for them, we're designing a whole nother tier of intervention that I can go into at another meeting, that is going to involve like mentoring and sort of some more intensive kinds of things. And so I can imagine the ESOL students like falling under that umbrella, like a tier 2 kind of thing, where we're really doing a little more concerted effort for students who just need more.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you'll be part of that, Ms. Rivera, of course.
Okay.
Well, and I guess to Tamara's question, as far as pushing this down to the middle school level as well, this is being funded for funds beyond regular foundation fundraising. The Boys High Foundation has sunsetted, so the $694,000 that are in that account are being transferred over to Midtown over the next 3 years. So just so people understand, the scope and expense of this, and certainly not all the money, all of the Boys High funds are going to this, but we're able to do this comprehensive program because of the funds from the Boys High Foundation.
Yeah. And just for reference, phase 1 cost about $30,000. All in for all of the time and the embedding and all of the research. It's also so this is part of what the foundation wanted to do, was do something that's going to make a big difference, but isn't a recurring cost, right? So if we can really get this right, and we can embed this and make this just part of how Midtown operates, that will be a one-time big cost. And then moving forward, we'll have this great foundation to sort of keep it moving on our own. But the initial cost is to have these outside people really come and help us really revamp 9th grade, essentially.
Well, thank you, Dr. Namias. As Dr. Bachman noted at the start, we definitely have a packed agenda tonight, or this afternoon. So before we let Dr. Namias go, any other last minute questions? And I will say, Dr. Namias, we'll invite you back, maybe September or something. Let us know how the kickoff of the program is going.
Great. I'd love it.
Okay, so with that, thank you, Dr. Namias. We really appreciate it. We're going to go back now to our agenda. So we are now going to the discussion items, and the first item is spring map results.
Is this where we need to limit the
No, Audrey, I'll tell you. It's I'll tell you. This does not have the 15-minute discussion.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So unfortunately, we do not have spring map results to share because it is not a required test by high schools. So the district has actually taken out like the reporting system of that because we only have about 500 of our kids who actually take the MAP assessment in the spring. So it's not a super great data point because it's, it's a third of our kids. It's not a third of our students. It's not comprehensive. So we have some other data that we thought would be relevant to share and take a look at as a team. And then we can kind of ask questions and go from there. Obviously, once we get EOC data back, which we started today, we'll be in much better shape to kind of continue this conversation, but this is kind of a start. So can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is as of today. Really as of yesterday, APS Graphs is always about 24 hours behind, but we're currently sitting at an enrollment of 1681. Looking at the population, 35% of our population is gifted. Just over 8% are students with disabilities, and then almost 6% of our population are language learners. Looking at the attendance, you can see kind of a snapshot of the last 3 months. That's the all the smaller squares at the bottom. Unfortunately, attendance starts to slack a little bit this time of year, especially with the amount of trips and things like that. But we're definitely still seeing an increase from last year. So our take rate is 99.1%, which means like teachers take attendance on time. So you can see we've increased from 91% there. We have a huge focus on just keeping accountable where kids are and making sure that's reported out correctly. Our ADA, which is our average daily attendance right now, is 92.4. So you can see just a slight increase over last year. And our CCRPI attendance is 75.5 right now compared to 76.7 at this time last year. Okay, you can also see a breakdown by grade level and graduation rates over the last several years. Any questions here before I go to the next slide? Okay. All right. This is a snapshot of our attendance data on the top. We do use that insubordination code for our phone violations. So that is why that number is as high as it is. But the large majority of those are coded as verbal warnings. It's, the first time a student has a violation, but that number does look high, but that's the reason that it's higher. We do want to keep good data on where those violations are coming from. As everyone knows, we've been focusing a lot on attendance this year. So we are, giving consequences out for being tardy to school and, kind of escalating those consequences as they get more and more so that we can get our kids to school every day and learning in a classroom. So that's definitely been a focus for us. And then skipping and a level 2 of insubordination are the other areas that make it to our top 5. Then going down, we've all seen this. None of this data down here is new. We've looked at this a couple of times, but just wanted to recapture that. This is all from last year and, prior to this year. So we've all seen this data before. Okay. Again, this is the left side is not new. We've taken a look at that data together before. On the right-hand side is a capture right now, today, of the percentage of students failing in each grade, and by content area. So you can see, I think Dr. Namias' presentation is well positioned. Our 9th graders are where the focus needs to be right now with improving their grades and understanding the importance of your grades go on your transcript now and these count towards credit, and it's a little bit different than middle school, and helping them to understand those differences. So that's definitely going to be a really helpful program as we move to next year, and hopefully we'll see a decrease there. Okay, and then the counselors were actually shared this data today. So seamless enrollment by school. So Midtown actually has the highest percentage of on-time graduates. So these are our 2024 graduates who just graduated last May, who are maintaining their seamless enrollment by going straight into a post-secondary institution. So we were really excited to see that data this afternoon. And that is all the data that we have right now that is, you know, kind of relevant to the needs assessment. Jennifer.
Okay, are there any questions on that? So I guess, Ms. Capelli, you know, our agenda item said spring map results. I guess we should change that to just data overview.
Yeah, the spring map results came from the Go Team office.
Yeah.
But when I called the data and research, because nothing has been up, they were like, yeah, we're not reporting on high schools anymore because it's just not, you know, it's not relevant data for us because of the amount of kids who take it.
Yeah, okay.
I apologize. I should have said that in the beginning, but I wasn't thinking of it as written on the agenda, so I apologize.
No problem.
I have a question about, I guess, the infractions with the phones.
Mm-hmm.
Does that include this pranking thing that's going around? This pranking scenario, especially amongst the seniors that I've heard about? Does that include that, where things have to be recorded and all that sort of thing?
Not sure what you mean, Audrey.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
either.
I think I
What-
know. The
There are a lot
competition,
of things going around that are saying that there are
the
rampant
competition that they've been, the illegal or the inappropriate for
Oh.
school competitions they've been participating in.
So those are
Yes,
really
and
one-off
the idea
events.
was that it has
So-
to be recorded, so somehow they're getting phones into the school or something like that. So I just didn't know if that was flowing through that.
So you know, if they're caught with a phone, yes, it gets coded as insubordination.
Okay.
I think the things that you're speaking of were more like one-off situations that we addressed individually. They're not going to show up. That would get coded under whatever happened. It's not a top
Okay.
5 event.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any other questions on the data update? Okay, so yeah, we'll go on to the next item, which is the needs assessment. Are these questions for us, or I guess I'm not clear what we're supposed to do in this section.
This is
So,
from the Go Team office. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Diane.
oh, I'm sorry. So yes, these questions are for the Go Team. So generally what has happened is over the summer, the principal and school leadership teams will be looking at their continuous improvement plan for how and what specifically they want to address for the next school year. If you all remember, you guys had that priority ranking. So that's your strategic plan. And so as the leadership team looks at it, they're going to take those priorities, and what they're going to look at over the summer is like the how to address those priorities, that management part. But by talking about this needs assessment, you're helping to give your insights and your perspective to the leadership team so that they have the full picture and consideration as they're looking how to achieve the goals of those priorities that you identified earlier. It's just additional information for the leadership team as they try to implement their strategic plan. So yes, these questions are for the Go Team to answer and discuss.
So what data are we asking about telling us? Is it what Ms. Capelli just showed?
Yeah, as it relates to your strategic plan. So like, did anything especially stand out to you? Was there any place that you think that, well, we think that this data is indicating that it impacts this? I mean, you know, it's up to it's your thoughts on what Ms. Capelli just showed you in terms of how it relates to your students being successful and your school achieving the goals in the strategic.
Yeah, that some of it is, expands on and is a little bit different than what we did in the data dig. So there was some information on Midtown in the cluster advisory team and SIN's data dig, which kind of, categorized things or charted the, some of these trends over time. And it might be a good thing to kind of cross-reference. Right, I'm looking, can't even see y'all's faces. Cross-reference some of that. 'Cause some of it shows, our attendance is slowly improving. That's a good thing. We do still have some stubborn trends in certain populations that are, and it's not, we don't have a huge number of kids who are chronically absent, which that is good. But being able to focus in on the kids who are, and I know that the care team there at Midtown does a good job at trying to reach out to them, figuring out what the needs are. I remember somebody asked a question at the time because we saw that, at Midtown, girls are more often chronically absent than boys. And so it was kind of a question of, well, why is that? And it does that's the same thing at North Atlanta High School, but it's not the same at some other high schools. So some of the stuff is very unique to our high school. So just trying to, I think looking at those things, if the leadership team has not, it was posted on the CAT website, that whole data dig that we did with the data team at APS. But for a while you had to have a sign in, which you guys do have a SharePoint sign in, but they fixed that. So just being able to look at that and kind of pull, like cross-reference the two reports, to see if there's anything you can pull out of there that
Yeah,
relate
the
to our
whole
strategic
admin
plan.
team did receive that, Tamara.
Great. Okay. That's awesome.
I would just like to, looking at the data, I know that the infractions is very high, but I would love to see the trend or how it looks compared to next year. Because I'm thinking it's so high because the students not thinking that we're taking, because of course a lot of schools have put into place cell phone policy, but as the school year goes on, you get more lax or you get tired of dealing with it. But by us being consistent with the cell phone policy and making sure they have them in yonder pouches, because I'm not even gonna lie, Friday, I had an issue with a student who had his phone, but everything was handled how it was supposed to be handled. And of course, you're going to have those students who try and keep trying. But I would love to see with that infraction, the way that it looks now as compared to next year when it's going to be out like, hey, it's serious. We're still looking and taking phones. So I think I would love to see what that number looks like next school year. By this time, I think it'll be a lot smaller.
I'm also
Well, I
interested
guess
in
there's
looking.
no way to tell from that snapshot. I mean, how many of those insubordination were for having a laptop in a backpack as opposed to having a cell phone out? So I think that would be a good data point as well. And seeing how any modifications or changes that are coming to the PED policy will be reflected in the behavior numbers.
And just so people know, our last community engagement thing with the CAT community engagement team is going to be with safety and security. So it will be with Chief Applin and as well as Chelsea Montgomery. So she will be presenting some of the discipline side of the safety and security data, as well as Chief Applin, with the school resource officer side. So just stay tuned to that. That'll be before the end of the year. So that might help you as well.
And Tamara, who is Chelsea Montgomery? I don't know that name.
She's head of student services. So she's over all things discipline. She was one of the ones when she first got in here, like she pulled in, what was it? There was something student discipline and student services were often fractured. And so she pulled them all under one umbrella. And I thought that was a really wise thing to do, because what was happening before is once you get labeled as a disciplinary issue, you sort of start down a different track. And so she's been really trying to overhaul that. She did some good work in her first year or two. And so she's going to be able to let us see what our discipline rates are, what the kind of incidents are, to your question. I don't know if it's going to have that level of detail. I think only the school knows that, within insubordination, what happened there. But it also compares us to other schools or high schools in the district, and also other schools in the cluster. So I think it'll be a good community engagement.
And when is that, Tamara? Is the date set?
I don't have the date yet, but
Okay.
as soon as we get it, we'll send it all out.
Okay, so here are the questions, 2 or 3 needs we can identify based on our data. I mean, to me, this seems kind of repetitive of what we've done this whole year with, identifying our strategic priorities. And I don't know, based on the data that Ms. Capelli just shared, what the needs are.
Yeah, the challenge is we don't have a whole lot new right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think this reinforces what we just saw in terms of our need to focus on ninth graders and give them tools so to me, that's a need that we can, because if we're starting this program, I think that can potentially go on the strategic plan for the future, is how we're continuing to roll that out and focus on that and move it up as the ninth graders grow.
Well, and I think a need, as we're trying to understand disciplinary trends and issues, is needing to code PED violations differently than insubordination, because we don't really have, if they're not coded differently, we don't have good data on how much of that increase in disciplinary and the increase in disciplinary numbers is attributable to PED or our PED policy, or is it attributable to something else? Because if you just look at these numbers, it looks pretty alarming. Last year, there were 111 of 2 to 3 incidents. This year, there were 300. So if that, almost tripling of the numbers is because there were exponentially more fights, we would need to know that. So I think there needs to.
Fighting has its own code. Fighting would not
under
code it.
Insubordination.
And sorry, Jennifer, fighting has its own code. It would not be coded under insubordination.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe insubordination is yelling at a teacher. I mean, so I guess what I'm saying is we can't see, is this huge increase because our school has, devolved into chaos? Or is it the PED policy? Because the numbers, going from, 4+ incidents, we went from 71 to 322.
And so we do internally keep all of that data. We can break it down very easily. We have a spreadsheet that identifies, violation 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So we do have an internal way of keeping track of all of that so that we can see the differences in why it's coded that way. Okay. APS Graph doesn't break it down that way, but internally as Midtown staff, we have the ability to do so.
Okay. Well, that's great, because the numbers look alarming if you're just looking at those numbers.
There's also a need for that would help with attendance for the district to have a seat time policy. Right now, students can miss tremendous amounts of school and still earn credit, pass classes. It would be really helpful if the school district, if there was a minimum seat time, that would help with attendance.
Yeah, because I was wondering about that, because I know a teacher was saying that they had a concern because a student had been absent so many times, but they're going on Schoology and submitting their work. So therefore they're passing the class, but they're not in the class. And I asked her, I'm like, I wonder, do they still have seat time? So yes, that would be a good thing to bring back, especially after COVID. Students think, oh, just because I go on Schoology and complete the work, I don't have to be in class.
Correct.
And that's the issue as well.
That would be a
Yeah.
huge, huge help if we could simplify. Then we're not worried about, excuses, who's turning in stuff, but all that stuff. If we could just have a seat time policy.
Would that be school level, Dr. Bachman, or you mean APS wide?
Well, it would have to be APS because it has to do with grades and credits, but the school district did used to have a seat time policy, and then they don't anymore. I think it was minimal, like 25%. You had to be in class to earn credit, but it just doesn't exist anymore, and I think that's a real detriment to it. Certainly affects our attendance, but it also affects, performance, and that would help a lot.
Could we not bring that into something that we create a policy for in terms of you cannot submit things on Schoology without having been in class for that unit or something like that?
Yeah, we thought about trying to do that. It's really, we've run a bunch of scenarios in our head about how to do that. I'm worried because it really falls on the teacher a lot. And because I don't think there's a way to stop because IC doesn't talk to Schoology and because IC is not the best. That's a problem, but I really think a seat time thing would just take all the guesswork out and all the extra work.
Yeah.
I'd love us as a Go team to really try to push that with policy committee and maybe the board members or something, but it would help a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the CAT would be a good good body to bring that forward, because it's more than just Midtown. Yeah, maybe Tamara and I can discuss the best way to bring that up, whether it's our Go team or if the CAT can do something to facilitate that request.
I think the data across the district attendance data across the district would really be a great point to bring up if Jennifer, if you and Tim are going to push this. I mean, the attendance is just so stubborn. I mean, we spend hours and hours a week on attendance, and it's only gone up a little bit since COVID, a small amount, and other schools really, have 50% of their kids missing 10 or more days. And even worse, I think it would really help the school system since COVID.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to bring that issue up at the CAT level and see if there's something the CAT level can do to facilitate that. Okay, moving on to our next item on the agenda. So Audria, this is one of them that has the 15-minute time. So this discussion item is providing support for students mapping out their academic paths and registering for classes each year. There is a recommendation that teachers can help guide students in determining what class is good and appropriate for them. And apparently Infinite Campus has a feature that could help teachers facilitate this. So I guess it'd be great to hear from the teachers, starting with the teachers, what your thoughts are on how teachers can play a role in helping map out classes for registration each year.
I think this is I'll start. I think one of the things that's important about this is that teachers see kids every single day in the classroom. And I think as Namias brought up earlier, that we have this divide between students who have the resources and support and don't have that kind of resources and support at home. And I think that travels over into like their course selections. So that I think we're missing students who have the potential to do more accelerated, advanced work, who don't have the parents who are pushing them at home or the friends who are pushing them to take that, to embrace that step. And I think that what I've seen in my first 2 years here is that that's typically a decision that's made by counselors based on the student's GPA. And what I see is if parents are really involved, then they are much more concerned about the GPA. If parents aren't as involved, then, you know, if a counselor's saying you have to have an 85 and somebody's fine with an 80 because it's a B, because their parents aren't pushing them to that other level, I think that's going to contribute to this divide. And I think teachers, if we can help say, you really need to push yourself. If I believe that you can do this. I also think it would address some of the problems that Dr. Bott brought up in a bunch. We have too many kids taking too many AP classes, because right now they are signing themselves up in a Google form without any consultation with really anybody except their parents and each other. And this has become sort of an echo chamber of theirs, where they are all encouraging each other to, like, this one-upsment of, I'm going to take 6 AP classes, you should take 6. And it's creating this environment where they're not making good choices about what's best for them, because they don't have an adult stepping in to say, you don't really have an interest in majoring. That's not your interest going into college. Let's focus on the courses that are going to really help you to progress. So I think this would help us with a lot if we started kind of thinking more holistically with how the school is helping kids, and tapping into resources. I think that would be a really great, and this doesn't mean the teacher's recommendation is the rule. Like, if the student disagreed or if the parents disagreed, that would be completely fine, and that we can make that change. But oftentimes what I've seen in the past is that when students are consulted with teachers, they conference with them and they get that feedback, they do tend to make better choices and more informed choices, I think, with their scheduling.
And I can kind of piggyback off of that. I have an example. I started the first beginning of the year teaching foundations of algebra, which is more so for those students who need those foundation skills before they start Algebra 1. So it's more of the lower level students. And in that class this year, I have seen that, like Ms. Boyd said, those students who can actually be pushed, they're able to do it. But because they've always been placed in these classes and, you know, at home, nobody's pushing them or cares about what their grades are. They come to school when they want to and things like that. But when I have discussions with them and inform them that, hey, you actually can do it and you're actually very good at math. I recently just recommended one of those students to do SIMC this summer to take geometry, and she's more than capable. She's able to do it. And just, she's like, Ms. Uzoka, you really think I could do it? And I agree. And then as well, on the other end, as far as my AP computer science class, I think the students take an introductory class, but with the teacher actually recommending them for my AP computer class, I think that can work as well to try to keep those students. A lot of students sign up for my AP computer science class because they've heard that it's easy. But I also tell them that if you do not have an interest in coding, it's not easy. If you have an interest in coding and you want to learn how to do it and you want to be able to do it with fidelity, then it will come and it's going to be interesting and easy to you. But if there's no interest in it, then the class is not going to be easy. And I've done it previously when I was in Rockdale County. We kind of checked off and recommended some classes, especially when it came to math and things of that nature, because I do have some students, they are able to be in geometry honors, but they haven't been pushed, or they don't have people that believe that they're able to do it. So they like to just sit back and say, do the bare minimum. But I do think it's very useful for teachers. Like Ms. Boyd said, we do spend a lot of times with them and we do know what they're capable of. And sometimes the students, like she said, they just sign up for things that their friends are taking or just to compete with them. And it's like, well, you're not ready for that caseload yet. So I think that is a good option to at least take in consideration what the teachers recommend for their students.
Well,
So
and
is there,
just just very quickly, the little bit of background. I mean, Dr. Bachman used this kind of model back at Inman to sort of start pushing people to think of themselves as AP students when the school started offering AP Human Geography. And I remember in those first couple of years when I was on the Go team there, when she was there, it really increased not only the participation rate, but the diversity of our kids who were taking AP classes. And so there's a lot of merit, to having, people who have worked with those, little human beings, knowing what they're capable of, and not just a number. So that's my 2 cents.
So is there a process? So I understand the goal and I understand the benefit of it, but I'm not clear on how to make it happen. So is this something where we need I don't know, a teacher task force or how do you take these goals and put them into action, I guess?
I would recommend that perhaps Mr. Vincent come and explain really how kids are scheduled. Yes, student choice is a big part of it, of course, but he also uses multiple data points to actually identify kids that may not, like the teachers were saying, that might not do it themselves or their parents might not. He does a huge amount of pushing into AP classes, pushing into honors classes for kids that may not do it themselves, all based on performance and other data points. So I just want you to know that happens all the time. So I guess maybe he could explain, and then if more information is needed or a different process or adding to the process is needed, definitely, we can talk about doing that.
Yeah, I think the more the more data we have and the more voices we hear in terms of what our students, we just see them in different ways. And I think that I think it could just be really helpful. And then you could compare like what the teachers have said, because it does actually, it's all integrated right into IC. And so you get a printout of exactly, okay, these are all the kids. I know that one of the things kids might not fill out their Google Forms is they don't have conversations. And I've heard one of the things I've heard Miss Palekia in the hall, because she's been meeting with all the ninth graders, and we've definitely heard some conversations with, no, you have this grade in this class, so you have to take this class. You have to take this certain class, or you can't take this certain class. And that, to me, that was a little problematic to me, is that I heard a grade number was a grade in a class was the end all be all of what a kid could end up taking. So that's one of the reasons I think this might be something that we could, again, the more we can get as a whole school on board with helping kids and helping them make good decisions. I think that goes back to that executive functioning, right? So.
Well, yeah, so maybe, Dr. Bachman, it sounds like maybe there's an opportunity to set up a procedure where teachers can provide more input into that, Mr. Vincent process. So I don't know if it would be, I don't know the best way to do that, but it sounds like, teachers are doing it already. Miss Boyd's doing it, Miss Uzoka's doing it, but maybe trying to make sure that what they're doing individually is folded into the process. And I'll just say personally, for kids that have support and are, some of my girls' classes, they were just, I guess I'll take this AP, I guess I'll take that AP. It wasn't sometimes driven by their interest. And shout out to Miss Boyd. My daughter loves to write, but she didn't consider taking AP research, and it was kind of on me. I didn't really know much about the class, and I was like, well, I don't know if you should take that. And then she's now going to be taking it her senior year because yes. And I think if maybe, she had talked to someone in AP seminar and she, hey, I really like they would have told her, you definitely need to take AP research. This is going to, align with your interests and your strengths and your talents. So even for the kids that have support, sometimes it's just, I don't know, guessing which AP is going to be the best for them and their talents.
We
And
have
my
about
kids,
3
my
minutes
kids got
left.
most of their recommendations from their older siblings, and not me so much. So they didn't really care what I thought about it. They were just asking their older siblings.
About 3 minutes left on this
Okay,
topic.
so maybe particularly, the teachers on the Go team can give some thought into how, yeah, as I said, you can fold into the process that Mr. Vincent uses to try to bring these efforts into the process.
Well, we first want to determine how, or in alliance with, Ms. Boyd and Mrs. Oak are not the only ones that do this, so I don't want us to assume. I think if we ask Mr. Vincent how he does get input beside looking at the data points that he does, he looks at all kinds of scores and things like that. So let's just not assume that other teachers are doing this too. So let's get that data. Let's get that data from him. Or
yeah,
absolutely. I think that would be really important to find out how, what he's using, and then how we can, just keep helping that be, help improve that process, like as we can help. So I think I would love to hear from him about how, what he's doing. And I think that would be great. Maybe we could have him early on in the year come to one of our meetings at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
Okay. Next item, restart the clock, Audrey. This is a 15-minute as well.
Okay.
Is talking about how the use of pre-AP courses could be an alternative to honors courses, and what the pros and cons are of that. So what I did is I know that's not the cleanest graphic, so I apologize, but I cut this list of pre-AP classes from the College Board website. So there are a number of pre-AP classes, and I know there's been discussion about I've heard of discussion in the past about using pre-AP versus honors. So I guess what are the thoughts behind this, and what would some of the advantages and disadvantages be of using the pre-AP curriculum as opposed to honors curriculum?
I think Zuko and I were talking about this, and lots of teachers have been talking to me about this because we have been getting a lot of stuff from College Board recently. So if for any schools that are teaching AP Seminar or AP Computer Science or African American Studies to sophomores, then the College Board is giving them the pre-AP curriculum for free, because they're seeing it as a way to get kids into those and prepare those for those classes. So right now, honors classes are they still have the exact same books, the same texts, the same curriculum as the regular classes. The teachers themselves working together add and augment the classes. So it's not a curriculum necessarily. It's just some changes that those honors teachers are making. Versus this is a scaffolded curriculum that one of the benefits, I think, of pre-AP that has worked so well for a lot of schools is that it does meet those kids who maybe don't have the skill level, because this courses are scaffolded and all the materials are provided for teachers. They've got access to AP Classroom and all kinds of other things that can support them instructionally. And since we have such a huge AP offering at our school, I think that would be a really great way to kind of get our kids prepared. Again, going back to what Nami's was talking about, working smarter, not harder, understanding the more rigorous thinking, the more complex thinking, that kind of thing that goes on in an AP class, and kind of pushing, helping kids achieve that earlier on.
My only hangup would be is because Algebra 1 and biology are milestone tested, and how would that help to prepare them? Is it aligned to the Georgia standards, especially since we just changed them over? And what would be the benefit, especially for my Algebra 1 students, what would be the benefit for them taking pre-AP algebra, because it's not an AP algebra class? And also, what is the training with this? Because when it comes to teaching AP, you have to go to a training which costs, I think it's like at least $800. So you have to send a teacher there to get trained and certified for that. So that's the other area. So I don't know if it would be beneficial in terms of Algebra 1. Especially since it's a state tested course, and making sure that everything lines up to the test that they take in May.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Would definitely require some more investigation for sure.
So maybe there's an opportunity to explore it with the non milestones classes, or pick one as a pilot. That might be an opportunity to see how, I'm just going to pick pre-AP chemistry, see how that compares to honors chemistry, and do an analysis, and see if that can be see if it's more robust or better. I definitely appreciate Ms. Uzoka bringing up that point, because as you know, the 11th graders in AP English are experiencing right now, they're taking the American Literature milestones. So they're taking milestones on a curriculum and a subject they haven't been taught. And that's been identified as a problem for years. But I know it's a constant source of frustration for these 11th graders to have to take an American Literature milestones for when they have not had American Literature. So Diane, you had a question or a comment?
So I guess my first question is do you have any data showing that your students are not being successful in the upper grades, that doing this would be that benefit? I mean, we're talking a lot about what ifs and we don't know. But we always want to work from a place of data. So it would be my recommendation that if you want to continue with this discussion, to actually have the data in front of you so that you can actually say, oh, well, this is where we appear to be, we have opportunities for growth, or we're rocking it out of the park with what we do. So if it's working, I change it, but because I haven't seen the data in today showing, where this is coming from, and I didn't hear it thus far in the discussion. So
I think the data can be deceiving, though. I mean, if the data is grades, and you look at the grades in honors chemistry from last year, just because the students achieved a certain grade doesn't mean that the curriculum was the most structured or the most robust. So I don't know. Me personally, I could see benefit from having a more robust curriculum for science. From what I have seen my daughter's experience. So I'm not sure what data you're talking about. To me, it's teachers, whoever teaches honors chemistry, look at the pre-AP chemistry curriculum and see, is it better? Would it help them teach this subject? But I mean, in general, it seems like AP curriculum is very strong. And if we have an opportunity to access additional AP curriculum, it's something to explore.
We'd also have to explore a funding issue, because right now we get funding for kids that are served in honors classes. So I'd have to see if that's still holds, because I can't say that all those pre-AP classes would have a gifted teacher. That would be a real issue. So we have to look in.
Yeah, and I already asked the advanced academics coordinator at the State Department of Education, and she said, because Ms. Wren had said she thought that pre-AP wasn't gifted, wasn't tagged for gifted in APS, and I asked if that was so I have some contacts at the DOE, and so I asked the person who's in charge of all the advanced academics, and she said that that's a district by district decision, and so it would just be a district decision to add pre-AP as a way to serve gifted. So that's she said that would be a way. Another thing related to this, one of the reasons that this is brought up, because English teachers have heard, and I haven't gotten confirmation yet, but I'm assuming that Howard is going to start offering ninth grade English to the 8th graders beginning this coming up year.
No, I have not heard that.
You haven't heard that? Okay. So maybe we can investigate that more, because that's what we've heard from other teachers, the teachers at Howard, and I think a concern from the English department is that students, 9th graders, are not going to be ready to go into, like, the 10th. What we're offering is 10th grade English is the AP seminar for those accelerated kids, and that they would not necessarily be emotionally, or that maturity level isn't there for them to be successful in AP seminar. But if we had a pre-AP bridge, that might be really helpful for them in a lot of ways. So that's a potential, something we need to investigate that more. Is that confirmed? Because that's what we have been told, that's already confirmed, that they're going to be doing they're going to be doing 8th grade, offering it 9th grade English in 8th grade.
There a few years ago, I guess maybe when I was on the Go team at Howard, there was a huge discussion about that they were going to increase the amount of high school credit classes at the middle school, and there was going to be a shift. So I know that was definitely floated out as the plan. That and I voiced concern when I heard about, saying, I don't know if a 7th grader should be taking high school biology. And then when they get to high school, so then when they get to 9th grade, they have to take AP biology or So I agree. I think if Howard is going to be offering more high school credit classes, then these pre-AP could become an even more important bridge. So it sounds like we have two takeaways. One, or a few takeaways, research items. One is investigate what high school credit classes Howard is planning to offer. 2, investigating whether APS could recognize or the process for having pre-AP classes recognized as qualified to serve gifted kids. So Dr. Bachman, what would be the mechanism for that second, just for us to explore? Would it be, figuring out if, as a district, the district is open to or would consider recognizing pre-AP as eligible for serving gifted kids?
So if I may interrupt, first off, I have a question. Is it that the district doesn't have it, or that the state doesn't recognize it as serving gifted kids?
Well, Ms. Boyd said district. She said
that's why I'm asking for That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking for the clarification. The other thing is, before we start going up to the district, I think it would be important to see where some of that alignment, first off, you need the data. Secondly, as you're looking at these curriculums, you may find that the curriculums really aren't different. They just get a different name. You know, just because it's called AP doesn't mean that it's actually that different from the standards and curriculum that we're necessarily already doing. Are our teachers, and Dr. Bachman, are the people in these, do they know what these pre-AP classes actually look like, and how it aligns to what's already happening in the curriculum? You know, because I think that's an important aspect rather than like running down this, going down this route to really understand the full field that we're looking at.
Yes,
do you-
right. And that's, again, I'm going to bring up the money thing.
Mhm.
The more classes that kids take earlier, the fewer teachers we need. Because we cannot make up classes or keep looking to offer classes just to fill a schedule. So I do want, there is an impact of offering more acceleration at the middle school level that will impact Midtown monetarily. That's a very real impact. I also guess we don't have enough gifted teachers now to run the model that APS is demanding that we do. We have done collab for a number of years, as many schools have done. APS is saying, and the state is saying that cannot happen anymore. So we are now grappling with trying to schedule kids with gifted teachers as is required. And that's a real challenge. So I'd like us to really talk about what the reality is before we talk about doing something different. I just don't know that I don't know that we need this. I don't, but if that's something you want to research, but I do want you to know that we don't have enough gifted teachers right now to serve. And what happens then with this new model, if we have to do it, is that it creates more segregation. And so which is something I do not want. And that's something we have to always think about with every decision at Midtown, is what does this do? You know, it's like teacher recommendation is also subjective. That's why for gifted, there's a checklist of things that to even, you know, we have to be really careful about subjectivity.
So if I can just interject, I think with both of these discussions that I've been listening to, the previous one and this one, the one thing that I'm missing is a really, really clear definition of the problem you are trying to solve. That I think if you want to investigate this a little more, I would strongly recommend that you lay out exactly what problem is being presented and what problem you are trying to solve. Because then if you can define the problem, you can gather the data and the team can look at that data and have that discussion to, first off, sometimes, you know, we have the impression that it's a problem, but when we actually define, oh, this is a problem, but then when you look at it, well, the data is not reflecting that, right? It's anecdotal. It doesn't, the numbers don't pull it out. The other thing is if you can clearly define the problem, then that when you get the data, you may find exactly where those pivot points are to help address the problem, regardless of what they are, because when you dig down into it, you may find that. So that would very highly be my recommendation.
Yeah, I don't see this as addressing a problem. I see it as an opportunity. If there's a better curriculum, and that's why there would need to be an analysis. If there's a better curriculum, if the pre-AP chemistry curriculum is more robust and there are more tools with that curriculum that would allow a teacher to teach that class, if that curriculum is better than the honors chemistry curriculum, then it's an opportunity. So you're not addressing a problem, but there's always opportunities for improvement. So that's why I think it would be fruitful. And if teachers are talking about this and bringing it up, then there should be a mechanism for analyzing whether this pre-AP curriculum could be a substitute for some of the honors classes. And if it just substitutes the honors classes, I guess I don't see the segregation issue that you were talking about, Dr. Bachman.
I think
So
that's one of
at
the
this
reasons.
point, we're over time with that, just so long as you all know
Yes,
that.
again,
We're
I'm
about 3
bringing up
minutes over.
about the district, the demands now for, you know, the gifted, the honors classes, the FTE. I think that has, you know, I think we're not understanding the financial. While this sounds like a great option, I think you've got to understand the financial issue and what this means for classes. We just can't keep adding classes. We are maxed out. And, you know, every time we add something, everybody says, well, we take something away, but that's a heck of a lot of classes we're talking about adding. And not everybody's ready for that. So I still have to have, you know, I just, you know, you bring up that teachers are asking about this. I haven't heard that. Ms. McBride hasn't heard that. Jennifer hasn't heard that. So, I mean, 2 teachers talking about it in Go Team, I'm not sure that that's a whole groundswell. So we just have to do some thinking about it, you know.
Okay, well, we can hopefully continue to explore it and work on getting some of the data. And again, I don't think the idea was to just plop all of these into the Midtown course offerings. I think it was more targeted. Should honors chemistry be replaced with pre-AP chemistry? Would there be benefits to that? So maybe there's an opportunity to explore that. But as Audrey said, we're at time. So we will go to the next issue on discussion, which is ways to get community input on athletics at Midtown. So this has been brought up to me by various parents, saying that they wish that there was some sort of mechanism to to provide input on experiences with the various sports and how we could come up with improvements to the experiences among the various sports. Is Tamara, are you still on?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Because I guess because you're on the phone, you don't show up on the screen. Oh wait, no, there you are. You're
Yeah,
now there.
I'm
I
here.
see you. Yes. Sorry. So I know Tamara, not to put you on the spot, but I know you've had some discussions about this. I mean, do you have anything to add on whether there's a need or a mechanism for getting the mid-20s input on their experience with athletics?
Yeah, I think there has recently been a survey that was done, or there's a survey circulating. I don't know if it's completed. So that would be one place for parents to and for students, hopefully, to get some sort of input. The second piece, as Diane noted, is that there are obviously changes at the administration level when it comes to athletics. So from my perspective, from what I hear from parents, you know, are 2 things. One is understanding that there's going to be, I mean, we don't know what the changes are going to be, you know, at athletics, but, you know, it does seem like there's going to be, you know, a shifting of personnel in some capacity at the district level. So obviously, you know, there's a concern that, you know, we as a school, you know, our ADs, you know, we have amazing ADs, right? So as a school, we're going to have to stand in that gap for whatever it is that the district is not going to be able to provide. You know, hopefully they can get it all together really quickly and, you know, become, you know, that kind of full service support team that, you know, we would hope for all of the sports, you know, all the ones that we offer. So there's that concern, is just making sure that we're prepared for next year. And I know, you know, I've had some sidebar conversations with Coach Hill, and I know that they know they're ready. You know, they're ready to handle, you know, whatever comes their way. So, but, understanding, and I don't know personally what the status of the booster is right now, the athletic booster, or, how that is or is not going to play a role next year. But it's just sort of a, hey, this is something we might want to think about as we slide into next year. Of how do we make sure that we're getting the most support we can for all of the sports, and do we, do we need more volunteer work? But that's for y'all to think about. And yeah, so then I guess the other one is just sort of the feedback. So that was the survey that's going around. I know when I was on the school board, we heard a lot from students in high schools from some of the other sports, things like wrestling, and where it was a common theme where they didn't feel supported by the district as much as some of the more main sports. So hopefully that's what the district is trying to gather, and then we'll see. But yeah, I have heard a lot from parents in sports, and this is not a school specific thing. It's more, of an APS wide thing, about their children's experiences with sports that are not football, basketball, and track.
Is the survey
So
that you're referring to, is that a distributed survey, or is that a parent-led survey?
it is, but to my knowledge, it's only going to certain, like it's not open. Like it's not something that people are posting on like social media forums. Like I think it's going to it may be going to athletes directly, or to parents of athletes. I haven't gotten anything, but I do know that the district is doing something. And maybe Coach Hill
Place
can,
the-
yeah.
We placed the district survey in all of our team snaps.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm not sure what the district is going to do with that data.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you guys are looking for a more internal feedback survey for Midtown specifically.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's asking for that specifically. They're just, wanting to know where to go, if they have concerns. And, one of the things I did know was, about this survey. So there would be a survey, there would be, obviously talk to your coaches, talk to your ADs. Um,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, I think the parents of Midtown are very involved and very vocal. And we do our best to provide as much, guidance or information about any concerns and that they may have in athletics. But if I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if there's a need for um, a survey, but we're open to it.
I haven't asked or heard anybody asking for, sorry, I mean, yes, I'm not still on mute. Asking for an additional survey.
I had one parent ask me, if Midtown could explore a survey. I don't have a lot of input on this topic because my daughter's experience in sports has been great and very seamless, but I'm not the team manager. I truthfully am that parent that just shows up and maybe works one concession stand. So it may be that the team managers have addressed problems and issues before they ever trickle down to us. So maybe there's an opportunity just for the team managers. I don't even know if that's the right term, whatever they're called, the team coordinator, basically the parent, who's
Parent
helping.
volunteer.
Yeah, the parent volunteer who's coordinating for that team. Maybe there could be just a meeting of those people at the beginning of the year to talk about best practices and things that have helped them, because I see a lot of people just talking about individual things and individual problems, and maybe something as simple as that, Coach Hill, might help dissipate some of the uh, frustration among those different groups. I don't know.
Yeah, this year I think we tried our best to have we had parent meetings for all sports this year. In those parent meetings, we selected a parent volunteer or a team parent, the main team parent for each sport. Um, you know, and then from there, we reached out. I created a chat with all of those parents and just gave them all of the information as far as their duties and responsibilities for the entire season. So, as it related to senior night, concession, team banquets. I don't know
Well,
if they if
great.
this has something to do with maybe coaching or another thing, but as far as that, we've had good communication, I think, with the parents and about what their expectations are and what for the upcoming year.
I think that, people who have gotten wind that, changes are afoot, may be nervous. And I think maybe just, wanting people to, realize that things are changing and, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But there's going to be a changeover period where, parents, I think, are going to be willing to help, and people are going to be willing to volunteer and to fill in any gaps that that they can, to ensure a seamless changeover. Um, and I think allaying because I mean, the grapevine is active, as you know, so just letting people know that, hey, the school's got this. We got this. We understand what's going on. We're prepared to stand in the gap. Don't worry. You'll get plenty of information and communication. I think that kind of proactive thing could probably help quell because people make up what they don't hear. Like if they don't get information, they make up their own facts, So
Yeah, maybe just having even just whatever, an end of year best practices for these team parents. Let send me what worked and what didn't work. And then you've got a great source of data. But I'll just say shout out to girls lacrosse team parent and ultimate frisbee. I mean, I feel like those two sports have been awesome from the athlete perspective, from the parent perspective. So thank you, Coach Hill, for putting that structure in place. But yeah, that could be a good way to just, finish out the year. Let me know what worked. Let me know, suggestions for improvements for next year. That might help. Any other discussion on input on athletics at Midtown? Okay, we have just a few more items on the agenda. The first one is principal's report.
I don't really have anything to report other than about the additional money. We were told that the principals were told that there would be additional money released for STEM, and so we were to submit if we were to have. We weren't given an amount. We weren't given any amount at all. If we wanted to submit something, so I put in a request to fund a teacher position. I haven't heard back, so I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll just see. So that's all we know about that. That's all we heard about that. The principals.
So Dr. Bachman, did they give you any timeline on when you'd hear back on that request?
No.
Okay.
We just had to submit by last Friday.
Okay. And Ms. Capelli put up this slide for additional items on the principal's report. Are there any questions for Dr. Bachman on general principal report items?
I think it's Memorial Day, not Labor Day. It's already school year's long enough.
Yes.
Oh, correct. I apologize for that. I'm already into next year planning.
I have a question, and I know it's going to be somewhat beyond your purview, but I know that I believe that next year's calendar also has the kids coming back after Memorial Day.
Mhm.
When will we move, when will we have the opportunity to move past that or to change or something like that?
The district usually puts out a survey kind of for the next 3 years. I don't think Diane, you don't have any input on that, do you? I could probably ask Travis Norvell.
What the calendar, input
Just
on
for
what
the
the
calendar
calendar
for
is?
probably 26, 27 school
I think-
year.
Yeah.
I think it's out there already.
It's been set, yeah. So
Yeah,
the
it's been
next,
set.
Audrey, I think the next opportunity to vote on the calendar is for 27, 28. So yes, the calendar's been set for 25, 26, and 26.
Yeah, I know that.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
there won't
mean,
be an opportunity to vote until, or to provide an input on the survey, or to, yeah. I guess the new calendar process won't kick off for a while.
okay, that's what I was getting at. So it'll
Yeah.
be 26, 27 probably. Okay.
Well, and I think
Uh,
Audrey, to your point, asking that, we get the data about, did people just not come back after Memorial Day? That would be an interesting piece of data. Like how many kids just leave,
Well, they have exams, so
Yeah, there's finals after that.
my daughter will be back.
Yeah, they're gonna be in rough shape if they don't come back. Yeah. Okay, and then the last item on information is the update on the Go Team input on year-end survey on the PED policy.
Sure. Dr. Namias is working on, she'll send a draft tomorrow to the Go Team. And any input that you have, if you could please submit it back to her by Friday, but she'll send you that tomorrow, the draft.
Okay. Oh, and I apologize. Yeah, there was a sub bullet under principal's report, the family engagement activities. Did you want to comment on this stuff, Dr. Bachman?
I'm sorry, did you what?
This was from Miss Rivera.
Yes, I can talk a little bit, like we mentioned the whole time talking about family, community involvement. We are really very grateful and fortunate that, that our parents and family are very involved in this school. We heard that conversation since the beginning of this presentation. And we offer a lot of activities that, throughout the year for the parents to be involved, and they really are here and they really help us a lot. We put some of the things that we do here since the beginning of the year. Actually, before the beginning of the school year, we're doing calling parents for registrations. We are getting feedbacks from them. And also like open houses are before the school start. All these activities are until we prepare them for graduation until they graduate. So we do really a lot of activities. We can see in these two slides, some of the things that we do.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. Okay, are there any announcements? Ms. Capelli, has anyone signed up for the second public comment period?
Let me see 1 second.
While she's looking, I'll make an announcement. Lacrosse team, both boys and girls, have playoffs games tonight at Henderson. So stop by and cheer on our girls lacrosse team starting at 6. You'll see me frantically running down Monroe to get to the game in about 2 minutes. And then the boys game is after the girls game. So probably about 7:30, the boys game will start.
And no one's in our chat for public comment.
Okay. Well, with that, then it is 5:57.
If I
yeah,
can
Diane.
just really quick, Jennifer, just a couple of notes I have just to let the team know around your seat time conversation. I can look into that a little bit because as a charter system, we have a lot of flexibility at the school level as to policy and whatnot. So it could be possible that if Midtown wants to do something, Midtown can do that, but I'll look into that and I'll circle back with Dr. Bachman. Also, I want to remind you about the CAT. It's a cluster advisory team. The CATs are not empowered in APS to submit any kind of waivers or policy. They serve in an advisory manner. So it's fine if you bring that those ideas to the CAT, but then each school would have to address it individually. So you couldn't do it for all of Midtown Cluster. And I did put a link to the calendars, the 26, 27, and 28 calendars are up on the website, the Atlanta Public Schools website, and the athletic survey. I did hear from, I did hear back that the athletic survey was specifically sent to middle and high school athletes and their families. So it's a very targeted survey. It's not out to the general public. So I hope that that helps with that. Just one other thing is going back to that, as a charter system, APS has a lot of flexibility. And that flexibility is from state law, state board rule, and district policies. So when it comes to a gifted delivery model, if Midtown needs a different gifted delivery model, a different way of doing gifted, that is a possibility for you all to discuss a school-based solution and go through that process. Because again, you guys are the experts on your school and your community. And as a charter district, as a charter system, the idea is that you can have flexibilities and go through that process to show why doing something different is going to be more successful and more beneficial for your students and your community. So just want to remind y'all of that.
Thank you,
Great.
Diane. I appreciate it.
You're
So with
welcome.
that, it's at 6 o'clock and we are adjourned.